When it came my time for interrogation, there was this German guard. The first thing you noticed, he was missing his right arm at the elbow. The other thing you noticed, he had a scar right across his face where even his left eye was missing. And he had what we call a burp gun, which is kind of the equivalent of our AK-47, and he would punch you the way he wanted you to go. When I entered the room, the German officer treated like he was an old friend of mine. And of course, I gave him my name, rank, and serial number. He wanted to know if I wanted to have a chair and a cigarette. And I said, no, thank you, sir. I don't want either. And then he says, oh, yeah, Schrenk. Yeah, we know all about you. And to my amazement, he went back to a file, went through the file, and he came back with the folder. Yeah, we know all about you. Your mother and father, and he named their names. You live on a dairy farm. You've got a brother and a sister, and he named their names. And then he says, I'm sure that you'd like to have them know that you're safe and well. And, of course, I said, certainly, sir. Well, then you fill out this Red Cross sheet. And it gave name, rank, parents' name so that they could be notified. And then all the rest of them were all military. What kind of plane you were flying, what altitude you're at, what kind of bombs you were carrying, what your intended target were, what other targets you had briefed on. So you handed it back to him all blank. Oh, he just flew into a rage. He said, you don't guff. Don't you think we know that you flew in a B-17? Write it down. And of course, I gave my name, rank, and serial number. He took out his pistol and whacked me across the head where I saw stars. And then every time he would ask a question, I would give my name, rank, and serial number. He kept on beating me up. The German guard behind me would take the gun barrel and ram into my back. And this went on for I don't know how long. Then at last he pointed the gun right at my temple, and he said, you better answer the next question or else. And of course, then you think there's gunshots. And I composed myself, give my name, rank, and serial number again, and he kicked me in the rear that I almost flew out of the door, and I breathed a sigh of relief. And I found out later, if you would have given even the least little bit of information, they would have beaten you to a pulp trying to get more. They finally gave us a little something to eat. It was a crust of bread smeared with a type of jelly made out of beets. But when you're hungry that long, if anything tastes good. They had also taken away our shoes and stockings, so we had to walk to the train station in the snow barefooted. You suffered more from the cold because the barracks weren't heated or anything. It was just all the people crowded in the same room. You got some body heat from other GIs. Sometimes if there was any little thing that irritated the Germans, like he was the Allied victor or something like that, they would punish you. Or somebody did something stupid, like one time somebody desecrated the picture of Hitler, and we paid dearly for that.
What did the Germans do as the Russians got closer?
Well, we could, the first place you had to put shutters on at 3 o'clock every afternoon and keep them on until I think it was 9 o'clock the next morning. And as the Russians were approaching, you could actually, even with the shutters on, you could see the flashes of light. And then a week or so later, you could actually hear the rumble of artillery. And that's when the Germans decided to evacuate the camp. Now, this is in July, so it's very, very warm. And they marched us to some boxcars, started loading us around noon. And as the boxcar got full, they would take bayonets and jab the guys in the doorway. So they'd go back in and make room for more prisoners. And at last, there was standing room only. Then they slammed the door shut. And we were in that boxcar the rest of the day, no food, no water. And of course, the temperature just soared. As it got dark, they moved the train to Memel, Poland, Lithuania, rather, and loaded us onto a coal ship. And there, too, the hold of that coal ship was so crowded that you couldn't even sit down or anything. You stood standing for 3.5 days. No food, no water. And to make it even worse, there was about 2 or 3 inches of coal dust on the floor. So every time your feet could never really get a firm footing. And by the time you got down there, your legs were just aching. You were so crowded. They had no sanitation whatsoever. Everybody had severe dysentery from the poor diet, and you relieved yourself right where you stood. So the air was just as foul as it could be. It was hot as the dickens from all the body heat. The only ventilation was a little, about a 4-foot opening where we had come down into the hold. When they got to the destination, they put us on a boxcar, and in this boxcar they had the Hitler Jugend. In other words, the real young, these are Marine, and I could speak German. I asked them how old they were. They were 12 and 13 years old, guarding us. And I think they were more afraid of us than what we were afraid of them. The train ride only lasted overnight, and we ended up at a place called Grostichow, Poland. When we got on this boxcar, they made us put on our overcoats, and they shackled us in twos. So now we can't. It's the middle of the summer, hot as the dickens, and we're in an overcoat, shackled together. But anyway, we got this German officer saying, "Today is your lucky day. Not only are you going to get 1 Red Cross parcel, you're going to get 2 Red Cross parcels." The minute that was done, I heard them give their order, "Affix bayonets." Then they released a bunch of police dogs, and they run us down the road for 5 kilometers, jabbing us with bayonets, and the police dogs snapping at our heels. And the only reason that they had given us the Red Cross parcels, they knew that you would drop them, and that way they could say that you didn't want the parcels, you threw them away. When we finally reached the destination, they had us lay in this meadow. You could about imagine how famished we are. No water or anything for better than 4 days. It's about 4.5 days now in the sweltering heat. And the Germans would taunt us. There was some pumps nearby. They would pump water and throw the water at us and do everything to antagonize us. And all of a sudden, one of the GIs started singing "God Bless America," and we all joined in. And that just absolutely infuriated the Germans. They finally gave the order, either you stop or we start shooting. And of course, then we had no choice. Then they had what we called a strip search. They took one prisoner at a time and made him completely undressed. And there's this great big German guard, we'd called him Ham Hands. He was one of our guards in Stalag Luft 6, and he was the most brutal guard you can imagine. One thing he would do is, when you weren't watching, he would take the rifle butt and snap it on your arch, trying to break your arch. Other times he would come up and cuff your ear, trying to break your eardrums. He would do everything like that. And that's the guy that was going to strip search me. I hadn't taken any of my clothes off, and he grabbed the Red Cross parcel, and I could speak German. I told him, those are Red Cross parcels, they're mine. He took his pistol and wham on my head. I fell on the ground, really composed myself, kept on that they were mine. 5 different times he hit me either on the chin or on my head. My head was just a bloody mess. And I finally realized that if I would keep on refusing, that he would actually kill me. So at last, I let him have the parcels. And the minute his back was turned, I grabbed my belongings and ran out and hid amongst the guys that had already been searched, and hid my head under my overcoat, pretending I was asleep. He came out looking for me, cursing in German, made several passes in front of me, not knowing I was there, and he finally went in, and I breathed a sigh of relief. I'm sure if he would have found me, that would have been the end of me.
How were you liberated?
By the English army. They treated us very, very well.
What are you most proud of from your service?
Well, I think that I feel in a very, very, very small way I helped preserve our freedom. And so many people really don't know what freedom is like until they actually lose it. Like I lost it. I realized what it's like to not be free, especially here in America. I don't think most of them even give it a thought. They just think everybody is free, and that is not the case.